Welcome back, my friends. This is Dr. Sunil Dand, one of my favorite doctors on YouTube. I ran across him a while back, and he was talking about this idea that when he wants blood work done, he doesn't go to his doctor. He just orders it himself. Granted, he's a doctor, but still, he doesn't go to the doctor because he doesn't want to have medications pushed on him or different types of things that, the doctor's got to make money. And on one hand, I don't blame him, but on the other hand, I kind of do when they're pushing pharmaceutical products that there may be better natural alternatives to. But I really liked him. Actually, I discovered him, even before that, talking about some of the preservatives and stuff in foods. This video, he said he's so bloody furious with doctors right now. Got 267,000 views in 10 days. It looks like one of his bigger videos. Let's jump in and see what he has to say.
Hi everyone, Dr. Sunil Dand. Welcome to another video. I want to talk to you about something that just happened to me with a family member that perfectly describes why I really dislike, perhaps hate is too strong a word, but maybe I should say actually hate it when doctors do this, when they act like this, because I've encountered this far too often personally, and I'm sure it happens to thousands upon thousands of people all the time. And it really makes me wonder, it makes me think, with any doctor, where is your humanity? Do you understand how important communication is in the job that you do? How can you completely forget that? Okay, so I have a cousin who has had a few health conditions recently. And she recently started having some fairly alarming symptoms. And she was going back and forth to the doctor and wasn't really getting anywhere. And her symptoms kind of escalated. And she called me up and said, look, this is happening now. And I said, well, this sounds pretty concerning given your history. So I think you really should go and see the doctor. Maybe you even need to go to the hospital. And when you're in with the doctor, I would like you to get me on the phone. Let me hear what's being said, and the doctor can talk to me as well. So I should mention this was in the United Kingdom, but I'm sure this could easily happen in the United States as well. My cousin was in the United Kingdom. I'm in the United States. So later that day, she went to her doctor, and I knew exactly what time she was going to be in her doctor's office. It was a GP, and don't get me going, I know everybody who watches in the UK knows how difficult it is to get a GP appointment, but because of the seriousness of her case, potentially, the doctor's office agreed to see her on that particular day. So the time passed and I thought, well, I'm expecting a phone call from my cousin. We're 5 hours behind on the East Coast in the US, but no phone call came. So I texted about half an hour after the expected appointment time, and I said, well, has the appointment happened yet? What happened? Why didn't I get a call? And she said to me that, oh yes, she's had the appointment, and she told her doctor, try to get me on the phone. Listen to this part of it. The doctor had absolutely zero interest. She explained, my cousin's a doctor, he's quite concerned. Is it okay if we just have him on speakerphone as well? Obviously, the doctor didn't know who I was, that I'm online or anything. No name was mentioned. She's got a different surname to me. And the doctor steadfastly refused. And the report I got was basically the doctor kind of berated her and said, you are a fully grown adult. You don't need anyone else to hear this. You can have a word with your cousin afterwards.
Wow.
And this was relayed to me, and I can't explain the level of anger that I had, because obviously emotions come into it as well. This is a family member who is sick, but more so considering what I do and how often I talk about this. And I get this kind of feedback all the time about absolutely dismal communication from doctors who don't think that's their job to communicate. I mean, how hard would it have been to have me on speakerphone, let me listen to everything as my cousin is explaining her serious symptoms, and then the doctor can talk to me? And why I find this so absolutely terrible and inexcusable is
Let me share some of my thoughts that have come up. That's wild. That's a wild situation. For a few years now, I've been promoting this idea of patient advocacy, and I get that from two people. One, Crystal Tini on Instagram, Krystaltini. She reminded me, or brought it to my level of consciousness, I really hadn't thought of it much before, about the necessity, this was during COVID time, excuse me, about the necessity of being an advocate for your loved friend or loved one as they go into the hospital system, because they might not be able to take notes or to listen. Their mind might not be they might be thinking about other things. You being there to ask the questions, take the notes. They throw so much at you in the hospital and care system, understandably, but being their advocate and their patient, person is vitally important. That was a huge message, and I've since talked about it on my YouTube channel a number of times. I want to amplify that message. Be an advocate for the loved ones that go into the hospital system. 2, I also get that from Galleri. I think his name is Dr. Mark Galleri, and don't ask me to spell the last name. It's like Ghaliri, but he's fantastic. He is a advocate for patient advocacy, and I think he's actually creating a program for it. The reality is we all need a team, a healthcare team, right? It would be awesome if you could get maybe your chiropractor or your natural holistic doctor or your yoga instructor or all these people in on your conversation with the doctor so you can look at a holistic approach. I agree with what he's saying here. For him to poo-poo it, maybe how she should have said it is this way. Maybe she should have said it and phrased it like, hey, my cousin is a doctor and he's also my patient advocate. Phrase it in that way. Say, hey, or my brother's my patient advocate, or my mom's my patient advocate, to help me take notes, develop questions, get a different perspective. Maybe a doctor would be much more open to that, but that is crazy. I can understand why he's mad. Let's continue.
I can't think of any situation in my whole career where someone who is sick would tell me that, and I would refuse to speak to their relative, especially if they are in medicine. On the contrary, I consider it a core part of my job. When I'm rounding in the hospital, typically I get a relative on speakerphone when I'm at the bedside. I let them hear everything, ask any questions, because this is a serious thing we're dealing with. Being a doctor is dealing with life and death, health and well-being. That person you are seeing is everything to their family. How can you not realize that? So I was disappointed, angry, but not entirely unsurprised when I heard that story, because I hear these stories all the time, every single day, in the UK and the US. Maybe things are even worse in the UK because it's a government-controlled service, and maybe the doctors over there are more prone to thinking, oh...
If you live in America and you want to get your eyes opened about why you don't want government involved in your business, especially healthcare, go watch some videos about the BS that goes on in the government-run healthcare system, and it'll blow your mind. People are like, yeah, I've got some type of an ailment, but I'm a year and a half out, or I'm a year out, whether it's mental or physical. It is and same thing in Canada. I hear the same thing about Canada. Our healthcare system isn't anything to write home about, but I hear that those systems are nightmares.
Doing somebody a favor, this is a supposed free service, whatever. I still don't accept that. Even when I was in the UK, I wouldn't have behaved like this. I would actually, if somebody told me my relative is a doctor, even if they said a nurse and said they're really worried about me, is it okay if I have on speakerphone? I would absolutely say, please get them on speakerphone. Let me explain to them what's going on. I understand how worried they must be, and I want to speak to another professional. How could I not want to do that? But I think too many doctors out there have an absolutely awful, terrible attitude when it comes to this. They lack communication skills. They lack interpersonal skills. I mean, how could my cousin get berated when she's sick? That day, she was actually struggling to walk. She was feeling so bad. Fortunately, it looks like oral medicines might help her, but she needs some very close follow-up. She's young. She's got a young family. I mean, what is that? How could you possibly say that? Now, I would like you to tell me whether similar things have happened to you or a family member where doctors have kind of refused to communicate and haven't considered it their duty to also speak with the family. I mean, we weren't even asking, or my cousin wasn't asking for some extra time. She was asking to simply have me on the phone as well at the same time. And I don't accept the excuse that you're very busy, you've got 30 patients to see. You're doing an important job.
Let's
You're
talk about that
paid.
for a moment. As you know, I'm having an issue with my eye, and I'm intimately familiar with the medical system, and my whole goal for the last 10 years, heavy since COVID, was to do preventative healthcare with diet, exercise, mindset, meditation. I got, I got out of alignment. I got caught up in the BS, and I had to go to the emergency room, and I'm kind of got one foot in, one foot out now. So I'm experiencing this myself. But I'll tell you this, based on what he's saying there, as I'm diving in, because my whole thing is I'm super proactive about my health. Supplementation, water with Celtic salt, meditation, nature, walking, grounding, all of it. I'm very proactive. Emotional, the emotional link. Thank God I've been blessed with people coming into my life all the time that are bringing me this information, and that's why I share this stuff too, to share this health and wellness information. The reality is, if I could go back in time, and I still may do this, I really want to get into the healthcare industry in some capacity. That's why I share these types of videos, and why you're seeing a transition with my YouTube channel. I want to be in the healthcare system because I see it as like there's a huge opportunity there now as people wake up to the BS of the corruption that has been going on in healthcare and medicine for decades, if not a century. I think there's going to be a huge awakening, and people are scrambling to go back to true health and wellness, letting food be thy medicine, letting meditation be thy medicine, letting nature and air and breathing and water be thy medicine. Those kind of things that are basically free and or low cost. So jury's still out, but I really want to get into that, and that's why I'll be talking more about this. But to his point, one of the videos that I watched recently talking about circulation in the eye, and because that's what it appears to be, a hypertension type of situation, maybe a little bit of cholesterol. I had been embracing a ketogenic carnivore diet, and I made a fatal mistake, which is eating processed meats. Hot dogs, granted they were, uncured kosher hot dogs, and also pepperoni, including turkey pepperoni, again, uncured, thinking that was the best thing, and a lot more cheese than I generally ate. I think that is a factor. Those are just my theories, but I do know it was, letting the things that are happening in the world get to me, raising my blood pressure, self-talk, feeling emotionally attached to other people's journey and or the world's journey, not operating with the level of detachment that I should have been operating with, and also not drinking enough water. I think there was like those 4 factors contributed to this. Now it appears, I'm optimistic. It appears that that there could be a good outcome, but time will tell. It's still kind of fishy. I'm still, it's all there. It's just blurry, and it's still coming back. Maybe 60, 70%. I mean, it's there, but it's a road, the road to recovery. But one of the videos I watched, the woman said that her eye doctor bragged at a country club event that he saw like 90 patients in a day. Like, he was happy about seeing so many patients. And she was saying, hey, I don't get enough time to ask him enough questions. And if that's where you're at, I just want to invite you. You might already know this, but I'm going to remind you if you don't. There are world-class, caring, awakened doctors on YouTube, and you have free access to them. Sunil Dand is one of them. Just Google your symptom or YouTube your symptoms, YouTube your ailments, and you will pull up a myriad of doctors. And here's the thing. I get it. As we all are all in this system that is collapsing, this financial system that is totally bogus, right? The dollar's burning itself out. Everyone's trying to get more dollars into their lives, scrambling, hustling. Doctors are no different. They're in the system too. They don't have time because of all the bills that they have, and or maybe they just want to make a bunch of money and want to see how much they can turn and burn. Regardless, I don't go into the details of why they're doing it, but they don't have time to sit with you for hours that the YouTube doctors do and talk about your symptoms. So my advice is be proactive, be self-reliant upon your, take matters into your own hands and do the homework for you. Look at nutrition, look at lifestyle, look at, relaxation and stress. I mean, these are the big factors when it comes to health and wellness: inflammation, stress, anxiety, diet, movement. I mean, there's only a few core things, and then they branch off of those about how you can address those and heal yourself. But it is not difficult. It is not difficult to wrap your mind around. You don't have to be a doctor to heal yourself. Let's continue.
Need a decent salary for it. You're not earning minimum wage. Do your frigging job. And I'm sorry again, if I seem like I'm worked up, I am worked up because I just literally got told this story maybe a couple of hours ago. And I thought, what a terrible situation and what sort of profession I'm in where so many doctors don't understand the importance of communication. Communication is everything. It is more important than your technical skills. Healthcare is over 75% knowing how to communicate, and way too many doctors don't have this skill. I actually think a lot of other professionals like nurses are better in this regard. They spend so much of their time. I mean, when I'm in the hospital, the amount of time that I see nurses spending talking to relatives and how they do it in a very empathetic way, at least most of the time, and I work in the better places. So let me know what you think about what I just told you. A doctor not only refusing to have a relative on the phone who is a physician, but also berating her, saying, you're an adult, you can call him afterwards, you don't need me to talk to him. When she's sick, she's confused, she's worried, she's anxious, her whole family is anxious, our whole family is anxious because she does have certain medical conditions, unfortunately, which need some close surveillance, and she may end up in hospital, hopefully not. All right, that's all I've got to say about that. Thanks everyone for listening, Dr. Sunil Dand.
All right, let's see what people are saying in the comments section down below. Thanks everyone for watching. Okay, that's him. I'm 69 years old, and looking back, probably 90% of my interactions with doctors were a complete waste of it's sad, but my assessment is this. Again, they just don't have the time. Even who's the guy that came out of, he worked for Kaiser Permanente. He's the actor. He's the, is he Korean? I might be getting that wrong. He was in The Hangover. I forget his name at the moment, but he said he hated it. They just book you so back to back. I mean, they're there, the system there to make a bunch of money. I think older people in particular should not see a doctor without an advocate. Amen. 100%. Gaslighting is real in medicine. Their inflated egos, they don't want to be questioned. That's part of it too. They don't want to be like, oh, we I'm going to bring my doctor, my relative doctor in. I can see a doctor being like, no, I don't want to deal with that. A few years ago, I was firmly told off by very, very irritated GP because I told him I was no longer taking my statins, as I didn't consider they were appropriate for me. He raised his voice and told me I'd clearly been reading too much rubbish in the newspapers and that he didn't study at university for 6 years to be told by a patient that statins are not for me. Needless to say, I stood up, walked out, and refused to see that particular GP. 2.2 thousand thumbs up. That is unfortunately what has to happen. Personal responsibility and let the cards fall how they may. Sadly, I no longer fully trust any doctor since 2020. Dude, I could have written this. Many still remain silent on the crimes against humanity. Holy shit. Amen to that. They have taken an oath that they have forgotten. This is so sickening. Retired nurse of 45 years. Yeah, an awakened conscious nurse. Good for her. As a nurse in the ICU, I realized there are many psychopaths in healthcare for money and power. Holy shit. That's a strong statement. I had a patient whose daughter was very upset the oncologist would not return her calls. I knew him to be a cold and arrogant man. I paged him, and when he returned the call, I said the daughter needed answers and put her on the phone. He was dumbfounded. Guess what? Questions were answered and orders rolled in. He didn't like me, but I was there to advocate for my patient. Amen to that nurse. Thank you. Crazy how much I changed after I started questioning everything about health. reading The Real Health Secrets made me realize how much we're not told. I'm not sure what the real health secrets there are. Maybe that's a book of some sort. I love that book. Okay, we'll have to check it out. The Real Health Secrets. Lack of empathy is unforgivable. Healthcare has become a business. Amen to that. It has become a business, and a very lucrative one at that. The GP does not want anyone there that could expose his incompetence. That's more important to him than whether or not his patient survives. I mean, it could be ego, right? I work for a cardiologist in the US, and he encourages patients to have their family on speakerphone or even record what he's saying. He wants the patients who are almost entirely elderly to understand their condition, understand and remember the doctor's instructions and orders. He always says the more ears, the better. Amen to that statement. Let's end on that. But that's what I'm talking about. You're getting so much information that people need to have a team, their family members, etc., or just record it for themselves to play it back later. I mean, that's what I do in my consultations when people want to talk about either One Life, right? The system I created for helping you find your mission and your purpose in life, and then build a media company around that, build a digital product around that, market it, sell it to other people, or build a media company around what your mission is. If you just want to jump on a consulting call, I always record those calls so that I can send them to you afterwards. That way you don't have to take notes while we're talking, and we can just have a conversation and you can play it back later. It's vitally important to help people, in whatever way possible, and it does take a team. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you very much. As I mentioned, you can check out One Life at thisismyonelife.com. It is an entire system for living. It's not a course. It's kind of a guide, but it's more of a game/system where you can start right away on day one using the tools that are inside of One Life. I use them all the time as well. This is my checklist for just managing meditation, supplementation, and exercise. I have different tools and different checklists and different systems for managing all aspects of my business, which is the media business and Focus and Flow product and apparels, but also all aspects of my life in all the 8 areas of life. It's a systems-based approach to winning the game of life for business and life. Because life is becoming more complicated, right? Let's be real. And you can check it out at thisismyonelife.com, but it's all designed to help you win the game of life and play your game, the game you came here to play, using your strengths and really the talents that God gave you. There it is. I appreciate you for checking it out, and I will talk to you in the next one. Have an awesome day.